Welcome to this edition of From the Vault, presented by the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. I'm Todd Lewis. Today we look back at the 1978 documentary on Gilles Villeneuve, said to be the best ever in Canada. The Quebec racer was inducted to the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame in 1993. Shot around the world in 1978, narrated by Alex Trebek, and directed by Canadian Motorsport Hall of Famer Jim Robinson, this is the story of Bircheville, Quebec's Gilles Villeneuve.
He is among the best in the world. In time, given time, he might be the best in the world. He is without a doubt the best Canadian-born racing driver ever. He is Gilles Villeneuve.
He's driving as we all did when we started Grand Prix racing. You know, you have to take chances, try to come up and know what he's doing. I think Gilles is trying very hard, and obviously he has a bit of experience to gain, but I think he has the quality of a very good driver.
Gilles Villeneuve is exactly a perfect copy of Mario Andretti 10 years ago.
Year-round, Monaco's casinos cater to those who would test the odds. And once a year, the odds grow to life and death proportions when the Grand Prix circus comes to town. And circus it is, as the wealthy and famous, princes and paupers flock to this tiny kingdom to see and be seen, to bathe in the excitement, be a part of the spectacle, to see the best drivers in the world test themselves and their machines in this, the oldest and most prestigious event on the Grand Prix circuit. Monaco, glitter, glamour, and a chance to beat the odds. But for the young man behind the wheel of this blood-red Ferrari, Monaco is little more than a serpentine racecourse, a puzzle that must be unlocked in a few short days of practice. The driver is Gilles Villeneuve, a small-town Canadian in his first year in the biggest league in racing. Jackie Stewart has won many times at Monaco on his way to 3 world championships. He's a man a young driver can learn from.
Well, this morning I was using 5 gear because the second was a little bit too long. So we shortened it by about 300 or 400 RPM, and now I'm using 4, and it's quite good like that.
You're getting off with 4.
Yeah. I've seen the Ford are using 6 here, are they?
Well,
5 or 6?
Schechter's using 6, but personally I think on a Ford you wouldn't want to use any more than 5.
Yeah, 5
you would never only use 4.
No.
Because the flexibility of the 12-cylinder is so much more than the 8.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Monaco's a place where you have to be very quiet. You know, it's not a place where you can be very nervous.
No, sure not for 75 laps.
Yeah. You know, I noticed going round the casino corner. What gear are you going round the left-hander of the casino?
That's in 3rd gear.
Because you were off and on a little bit on the throttle going through there.
I still don't have the limit on there for the braking, and I'm still trying to find it up.
Yeah.
And also, because at some point it understeers, and then it goes to oversteer. The car is not stable.
There's a bad bump there too.
Yeah, and I found out that you have to be very much on the apex. If you go a bit out, it's very slippery.
Yeah, sure. Well, slowly catch the monkey.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Villeneuve drives for Ferrari, the Italian team renowned for its organization, for its dedication to winning. The team is a big one, a busy one, but there is always room in the pit for one small pensive figure. Joanne Villeneuve, Gilles' wife. Short moments together, not much more. A racer's life belongs to his public and his profession.
From the Vault is brought to you by M-Zone, premium auto care proudly owned and made by Canadians. By Recap Recovery Drink. By WeatherTech. For the perfect fit and ultimate in-vehicle protection, nothing protects like WeatherTech. Order online at weathertech.ca. And by the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. Visit our website for hall merchandise.
Home now for Gilles and Joanne is Monaco, because it's near the Ferrari test track where Gilles must practice constantly. They are here thousands of miles from family and friends, because the center of Gilles' life has always been speed.
I always liked speed, more or less. When I remember being, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, and telling my father all the time to go quicker or to pass the guy in front in the road, or I just loved speed. And in fact, I first drove when I was like 7 years old, sitting on my father's knee in a Ford 1956 or something like that. And he was letting me drive alone, just the steering wheel, of course. And I was loving that. And the first contact with racing pretty much is at the stock car racetrack, which was close to Berthierville, the town where we were living at. And I was at about 12, 13, 14 years old, I think, at that time. And of course, I liked that very much. And a friend of us was driving a stock car. You know, it was very Mickey Mouse stuff, if you want, but I loved it. But the contact with real motor racing only came like when I was 17 with Saint-Javit, Montreal. And right away I thought that's what I want to do, but it was very far away and a very difficult thing to achieve because you need so much money to do that. But before that, I got involved in snowmobile racing in 1969 for a dealer in my town. And the machine was very good. And in that first year, I won, I don't know, 6 or 7 races. And it was quite a good season. After that, I went for a different factory, directly for the factory. And that's when I started driving across the States and across Canada. And the big success came in 72, 73. That's when I was Canadian champion first time and world champion in 74. And because of that, in 73, I made enough money in purse so that I could afford to buy a Formula Ford and get started in motor racing.
Gilles' first taste of international success came as a snowmobile driver and designer of this unusual machine. And Gilles believes that racing snowmobiles and later cars in a rough northern climate has helped his Grand Prix technique.
Yeah, through my career, I'm sure it helped me very much because especially the snowmobile racing. In fact, almost any form of racing is good, even if it's go-kart to start with or whatever, because it gives you the racing spirit, you know, the willing of doing better, of surpassing yourself or handling traffic because there's people around you trying to go as quick, so that's very good.
In his early racing days, the money was tight. But now he drives for the best.
Well, Ferrari organization, I'm sure, is one of the best. It is the best, I'm sure, because we have all the facilities over there, testing track, and Ferrari is the only manufacturer really making all this product. Engine, gearbox, chassis, everything is made at Ferrari, or almost everything. I would say like 95% of the car is built at Ferrari. So that's why the Ferrari people are, I would say, different than the other. They really love their car, you know, they believe into it. And each driver, we have our mechanics and chief mechanic. Usually at the racetrack, we have one chief mechanic each and 3 mechanics on each car. And those 3 mechanics change at every race. And there's two crew, if you want. They go at the shop preparing for the next race, and the other come to the race, and so forth. We have also the engineer, which is Tom Maini, who is the track engineer, if you want. That's mainly with him that we discuss after doing a session or after 10 laps. I come in the pit and discuss with him what change I want on the car or what the car is doing, and he suggests me we should do that, and we discuss it together. And above all, there is Mauro Forghieri, who is a designer and pretty much the boss of everything. And this year, who comes at pretty much all the races also. And I also discuss the matter with him. And Mauro is phenomenal on the power of analyzing the situation. You know, like if we have 4 different tires, different compound, and we've tried different suspension, so he can quickly point out which combination will do the best and all that. He is phenomenal on that. Of course, he has a super experience.
And how does Gilles deal with the possibility of death?
Well, I'm sure I had some accident, and luckily I never got hurt, except 3 years ago when I broke my leg. I'm sure one of those days, I hope not, but maybe I will have a big accident and be broken everywhere, and that might happen. But I have a certitude that I'm not going to get killed in a car, if you want. Why, I can't say, but that's a feeling I have. But of course, I don't like speaking about it much or saying it, because I don't want to push the luck on it, but that's a feeling I have.
Maybe he will be lucky, maybe not. But whatever the future, a driver's time is primarily dedicated to his demanding, dangerous craft. His family, his friends must come second. For a Grand Prix driver, interludes like this must be squeezed for every drop of pleasure they contain. How odd and difficult it must be for the Grand Prix driver. So very much alone with his thoughts and fears, his doubts and ambitions. So alone, yet standing squarely at center stage in a life and death drama, in the midst of a multitude that wants, needs a piece of the man, the hero, the flesh and blood repository of our fantasies. For Villeneuve, there is added pressure. He's new to this league and must prove himself on the track, not only to his fans, but also to his fellow drivers, to men like James Hunt, an ex-world champion, now fallen from the pinnacle, and to another champion, Niki Lauda, whose life was nearly snuffed out in a fiery accident at the German Nürburgring, or Ronnie Peterson, whose life was lost at Monza shortly after this Monaco race. And what does American Mario Andretti think of Gilles?
I think Gilles is trying very hard, and obviously he has a bit of experience to gain, but I think he has the quality of a very good driver.
I think the only thing he has to learn is to pass cars beside and not over them. Would work a lot better for him. I've been involved with 2 accidents, which certainly I think is his fault. And Regazzoni was driven over by him as well in Long Beach, and that's not the way he's going to win races, unfortunately. So I think he has to change his style slightly. Otherwise, I think he's very good.
Some drivers, Peterson among them, think Villeneuve is dangerous.
Yeah, I think he's dangerous the way he's been behaving so far. But I think he will learn. If not, he's going to learn the hard way.
I don't know him really, because I haven't spoken to him, but he's driving as we all did when we started Grand Prix racing. You have to take chances, try to come up and know what he's doing. He got himself in a very good car in the right moment. The car is running very well, so for him it's very good, because he can learn a lot of things there, and as you see, he's going very well.
My first year with McLaren's, I crashed a lot, and eventually I found something that said to me, well, you mustn't crash, and you can get hurt. And that was not crashing myself, it was seeing somebody else crash very badly that woke me up. So really, I think it's a matter of waking him up, and if he's got the brains for it to register, because you don't become champion by crashing and being dangerous, you can become champion by regular, fast driving.
There is no doubt Gilles has the talent, but as Jody Scheckter says, he must have the capacity to learn from his mistakes. Can he earn the respect of his fellow drivers, men who have proved they belong? 3 days of qualifying have too quickly slipped away. Not enough time for Gilles and his crew to find the best setup for his number 12 Ferrari. Gilles manages only 8th fastest time, placing him far back on the start grid. Brief minutes to race start. Every available vantage point filled hours before. Finally, the arrival of Monaco's first family. Prince Rainier leads the way to the royal box, continuing a tradition as old as the Monaco Grand Prix. For a moment, Princess Grace holds center ring in the Grand Prix circus. But now the spotlight shifts to Gilles Villeneuve and the other drivers who will test themselves and their machines in a way few men dare. The world may watch enthralled, but the driver's world has shrunk to a point of concentration the exact size and shape of this 3.3-kilometer track. The drivers ready themselves for the warm-up lap. One of the most dangerous moments in Grand Prix racing is the start of the race. Beginning from grid positions determined by speed in qualifying, the drivers circle the track once at a reduced pace. They maintain their positions, then halt for a few brief seconds at the start-finish line, and put their foot into it at the flick of a signal light. There's a jam in the first corner. James Hunt in a McLaren has been pushed hard against a metal barrier in a shunt with Villeneuve's teammate, Carlos Reutemann. As they come up to the hairpin, Ulsterman John Watson is leading in a Martini Brabham, followed closely by Depailler. Because of the first corner bump, Reutemann has dropped from pole sitter to back marker, with only James Hunt in his ailing McLaren behind him. Gilles is in 8th, an almost impossible position to improve. This may not be Gilles' race, but former driver and team manager John Surtees thinks he has the speed to be successful.
I don't think there's any doubt about him being fast enough, but at the same time, he's just got to sort of temper his speed with a little experience and a little more consideration. He's got to do a lot of thinking, plus he gets more knowledge of the other drivers he's driving against, which is another important factor, because you know, the man in front when you're coming up, sometimes you know who you can take liberties with, other times you know very well you don't take liberties.
Sometimes the man does take liberties, dangerous liberties. So far he's been lucky, but Joanne Villeneuve worries that someday his luck may run out. That's why she keeps her constant lonely vigil in the pits. She knows the risks each driver takes, but how does she cope with her fear?
There's been so many drivers that have been killed in racing. Now it's not as often, but still, one bad accident could happen, and you always hope it's not him. So you're always worried when he goes around the track that if he doesn't come back, there might be a big accident. So you watch for the ambulances to go out when you see he's not coming back, or you wait till someone comes and says, okay, he's all right. That's one reason I stay in the pits all the time.
When does Joanne begin to think about the possibility of an accident?
I start thinking when he starts going up, or like in Long Beach, he was first, and I kept saying, oh, he told me he'd be careful, he told me he'd take it easy, and all that sort of thing. So when I saw he didn't come back, I said, he didn't keep his promise, he wasn't careful. But then he explains everything after that. But it's hard to just stand there and wait and wonder what's happening in his head, what's happening on the track, and what's happening in other people's heads, like other drivers' heads. And like when I see him behind someone, I say, oh, maybe he should just take it easy, but I'm not driving, so I don't know what to expect from the other driver as he does. So it's a little harder for me than it is for him.
Is Joanne prepared for an accident?
I guess you get used to the idea that maybe someday it could happen, and you have to live with it. Otherwise, if you can't live with it, there's no way you can go through it all. If you can't live with the thing that's saying maybe in 5 years he won't be here because of a bad accident, and you keep thinking about it that way, there's no way you can just go on going to the races and enjoying it. Well, enjoying not everything, but at least trying to feel calm about it.
Late in the Monaco race, Gilles is running well. He has improved his position to 5th place and is assured of 2 points in the driver's standing. When suddenly, in the tunnel, Ferrari team manager Mauro Fugeri knows something is wrong. But what? Has Villeneuve extended his reputation as a car wrecker? Has Gilles miscalculated once more? Joanne must watch and wait. Nobody can tell her what has happened. There is still no word on Gilles as Patrick Depailler takes the checkered flag to win the race. And the Tyrrell team dances in jubilation at Depailler's first ever Grand Prix win. For Joanne, there is no joy, only concern, and perhaps fear. There have been other times like this. Too many other times like this. As a Formula Atlantic driver, Gilles was very successful and very accident-prone. But accidents never hampered his driving, nor was he ever seriously hurt. After this airborne 360, Gilles is not even shaken, only angry. His car-destroying ways have followed him to Formula One, with a serious crash in Japan, and here in Long Beach, California, where a driving error, an attempt to lap Clay Regazzoni while safely in first place, cost him the race. Back at Monaco, there is still no word. Finally, Gilles is all right. And the accident was not his fault. As team manager Fugeri explains, Gilles had a puncture, hit a curb, and lost a wheel. In top gear at the time, it's amazing that he didn't launch his car into the Mediterranean at 150 miles per hour. Now his team knows. This time, Gilles did not err. This time, the car, not the driver, broke. This time, for Joanne, there is relief. This time, Gilles is safe. The race is done. Her husband has once again beaten the odds. But Joanne's happiness must be tempered by thoughts of races yet to come, fears yet to be faced. The world knows Gilles, applauds his exploits. Joanne is anonymous. Yet who is to say that hers is not the more heroic task? But this day, this race is over. And if his machine is a bit the worse for the experience, at least Gilles is not. This is the public Gilles Villeneuve, a walking billboard, a well-paid member of the chic and sexy International Grand Prix circus. The private man has not changed much from the boy who grew up in the small town of Berthierville, Quebec. A simple man of simple tastes. Music has always been a part of his life. And Gilles, the man we might wish to be in our fantasies, has his own dream. If he were not what he is, he'd rather be a musician. His parents, too, would have chosen a different life for their son, as an engineer or doctor, perhaps, the common aspirations of parents for sons. But Gilles' talent took him in another direction, and his family has supported him all the way. Gilles' father, Seville, now a clothing manufacturer, is proud of his son's ability. His mother, Georgetta, worries about Gilles and her other son, Jacques, who is also crazy about racing. But she locks her mother's concerns behind a wall of trust and hope. As far as the good citizens of Berthierville are concerned, Gilles is no longer just another of the local young men who like fast cars and a little fun. He's an international celebrity. So even here, Gilles has difficulty finding the freedom he once had. The freedom he treasures most. The freedom to meet with his younger brother Jacques and a few friends, to tear up the countryside, just for the plain hell of it. Jacques also aspires to racing greatness, and his father believes he will one day join Gilles in the front ranks of world-class drivers.
In French we say he's got
la fougue. He's got the will to get there, and they gotta win. I once seen a race, and I was fighting with my wife. Funny, of course, that Gilles was there and Jacques was there, and it was the opposite. So they're so alike. They were so alike that I couldn't say who was who. But they were there. I said it was Gilles and it was Jacques. And Jacques won the race. I thought it was Gilles. The same style, and believe me, they get there in half the time that anyone will do it. I believe sincerely that Jacques will reach Gilles, which is my dream, my biggest dream. And I wish to see them with these Ferrari. One day, Gilles and Jacques will be together in the same team.
Gilles Villeneuve has come a long way in a short time. And the long, winding, treacherous road he has chosen to follow has brought Gilles and Joanne home once more, to Montreal and the Canadian Grand Prix. For Gilles, the pressure must be massive. Not only has he still to prove conclusively that he belongs in Grand Prix racing, he must also satisfy a hometown audience that expects a magnificent performance from him. During the wet days of qualifying, Gilles, noted for his driving in bad weather, pilots his Ferrari with poise and sureness, finishing with the second fastest time, just behind his teammate Carlos Reutemann. These are long days for Joanne, but at this race, the vigil in the pits is less lonely than usual. She's at home now and can count on the comfort of old friends like Montrealer Philippe Georges. It is just 5 years since Gilles first settled himself behind the wheel of a real racing machine, on a day not too much different from this day, at the Jim Russell School of Racing at Montreal, Quebec. School owner Jacques Couture recalls,
well, when he took the school here at Montreal in '74, showed up, did a day like today, cold and wet, raining, and with about 8 other pupils, started off by learning the basic idea and the technique that we teach to get him started in it. In the past, he'd had a lot of snowmobile experience, and then went out on the track with the others and started driving and started putting that theory into practice. And I think it didn't take very long at all when I was able to see right away that he had a certain ability to learn that was very unique or different. I think one of the things I really remember is that he never made a mistake twice. He'd make a mistake, I'd tell him what he did wrong, he'd correct it and never do it again.
And unwind. What did you do? And also you turned. You held the wheel. You kept turning at the apex. From the apex, as you accelerate, you get the change in that exhaust note. That's when you accelerate, unwind, release the pressure, let the car out. Okay? Don't hold it at the apex.
The majority of people don't really remember or see drivers or understand maybe the circle of Formula One drivers in the world. The majority of them are all people from Europe, people from well-to-do families, people that have a completely different upbringing. Now we have a French Canadian that comes out of a village in Quebec and in a very short time has penetrated and has become one of the top 25 drivers in the world. I think he ranks as a genius. Just unbelievable.
a genius? Perhaps. Gilles' ascension to Formula One ranks is very unusual. But how very unusual it would be to have two small-town Canadians driving Grand Prix cars.
Well, Jacques Villeneuve has a lot the same ability as Gilles. He's just a very, very good driver. I think that the only real difference is that he's a little younger, so at the moment he's not quite as serious. But I think that as he grows older, he'll get more serious, and I think that hopefully in a couple of years we'll have another French-Canadian in Formula One motor racing.
It's the day before the Canadian Grand Prix, and Jacques Villeneuve will be driving in a Formula Ford race. Gilles and the entire Villeneuve clan are here to cheer their boy on. A few years ago, this was Gilles' racing world. Its boundaries defined by a man's talent as driver and mechanic. But unlike Jacques, Gilles could not call on an older racing brother who has learned through hard-won experience how to reduce the odds. In the hierarchy of racing, this might be a minor event. But to the Villeneuves, it is as important as winning a world championship. And for Gilles, perhaps the cause of more nervousness than his own race tomorrow. The multi-throated scream of highly stressed Ford engine signals the start of Jacques' race. A family discussion places Jacques second behind an early rival of Gilles. The cars streak into view on the second lap. Jacques has grabbed the lead with the rest of the large field snapping at his heels. Regardless of the caliber of the event, this is what draws us to the race courses of the world. Man and machine at speed, men testing each other, testing the odds. But only another driver really knows what it's like in that cramped cockpit. Only a driver knows of the real battles being fought. The battle to maintain complete concentration. The battle against fatigue. The battle to win in a machine gone wrong. The battle against heat, against choking fumes. The battle to shift and clutch and brake perfectly, hundreds upon hundreds of times, at speeds that would devour most of us. Only a racer understands these battles and lives for them. Though he is in a confining space, he is free to seek a level of perfection that most of us can but dream of. Because it is only here in the cockpit of a machine at speed that Gilles, Jacques, and men like them are fully alive. A driver's family must understand this passion and accept it, as Joanne does, and as Jacques' wife, Céline, does. Courage is not found only on the track. This day, Jacques has won his battles. He takes the checkered flag in victory. Today, their mechanized warrior is safe, and the Villeneuves can enthusiastically share their youngest son's happiness. Tomorrow, it will be Gilles' turn to do battle. But no matter what the outcome, Céline Villeneuve is certain of one uncontestable fact.
He said one day, I'm even richer than Frank Sinatra. He's got millions I don't have, but he doesn't have what I have. And I believe I'm the richest man on the world because of this pair.
Grand Prix Day unfolds under cold, threatening skies. But still they come, thousands upon thousands of people, drawn to this windswept island by visions of glory and daring. Drawn here to touch, for a dangerous instant, the lives of these men of speed. Jody Scheckter, Niki Lauda, Jacques Lafitte, Mario Andretti, Alan Jones, and of course, Gilles Villeneuve. The unsettled weather during the days of qualifying yielded little information on proper car setup for this tight, twisting track. Thus, this dry Grand Prix morning is a stormy sea of activity as teams seek to unlock the mysteries of Ile Notre Dame. Italian writer Franco Lini has been a part of the Grand Prix world and a special friend of Enzo Ferrari's for many years. It was his advice that put Gilles Villeneuve into the cockpit of a Formula One car.
Well, Ferrari select Gilles Villeneuve at the end of a period of few weeks during after July '77, when Niki Lauda left Ferrari. Suddenly Ferrari have to choose another driver, and the first one, honestly, the first one Ferrari was supposed to take was Andretti, but Andretti was not available because Andretti just signed a compromise with Team Lotus. So I suggest to Ferrari to go at the young driver, and between the young driver, he was two French-spoken, one really French, Patrick Tambay, the other one, Gilles Villeneuve. Villeneuve, I saw him in Formula 2 and in Pau, which is a very difficult track. He's doing a very good job in practice on race. Then I saw him on '77 in Silverstone when he's doing the British Grand Prix with McLaren, and you remember he's doing a very good job too. Then I meet again in Canada during the Canadian Grand Prix, and I have a very good impression of him. I believe he's a very good driver. So when Ferrari asked me to suggest somebody, I suggest Gilles Villeneuve. Gilles Villeneuve is exactly a perfect copy of Mario Andretti 10 years ago. And that's, I believe, he has the same successful career of Mario Andretti in front of him.
As successful as Andretti, a world champion? Maybe. Gilles thinks he can be, and his father is sure of it. The time for speculation is just about done. The cars are on the starting grid. The main event of this Canadian segment of the International Grand Prix Circus is but moments away. Pierre Elliott Trudeau arrives to officially start the race and join the other dignitaries who are drawn into the Grand Prix vortex wherever it travels. Two kinds of aloneness. A father watching over his son, the son surrounded by the world and its demands, yet alone in his fragile cockpit. Alone with his talent, determination, reflexes, and concentration. So it is with all drivers in these final seconds. Their world reduced to a ribbon of asphalt bordered by catch fences and a sea of hungry faces. The starting order has been determined. Jody Scheckter in second spot.
Nice small lead, don't build up too much, and let's hope that wait for Mario.
Jean-Pierre Jarier, the fastest qualifier, gets last-minute advice from Colin Chapman. Villeneuve holds down third spot, a scant 0.2 of a second behind Jarier. The excited babble of scores of tense fans is lost in the roar of 32 screaming engines as the 1978 Canadian Grand Prix is put in motion. The driver's fears of a crash on the first tight corner are realized. Hard-charging Hans Stuck's shadow goes end for end in a collision with Emerson Fittipaldi, and Jacques Lafitte must put his Ligier Matra onto the dirt to avoid calamity. Villeneuve has escaped harm, and at the end of the first lap finds himself in fourth behind Jarrier's Lotus, Alan Jones' Saudia Williams, and Jody Schechter's Wolf. The race's first casualty. René Arnoux has bent a steering arm on a curb and must retire his Surtees. Hans Stuck, his shadow twisted out of shape in the first turn shunt, is forced out of the race. Villeneuve has settled in well. His car seems healthy. Jarier has made some room for himself, and at this point, the real race is among Jones, Scheckter, and Gilles, virtually nose to tail and dicing dramatically, constantly. Mario Andretti, frustrated at losing contact with the leaders, behind a slower but determined John Watson, tries an inside move at the hairpin but bunts Watson's Brabham clear of the track, stalling both cars. At this early stage, most of the action is in the pit area, where faces are long and tempers short. Fittipaldi must retire his copper Sukar, its rear suspension destroyed in the first turn altercation with Hans Stuck, and he is not amused. A slowly leaking puncture finally forces Alan Jones to pit, dropping him to 12th place and elevating Gilles to 3rd. As usual, Joanne Villeneuve is in the pit area. As usual, she is concerned about her husband. And as usual, she wishes he'd chosen a safer, saner line of work.
I've never liked racing, especially in the beginning when the children were young. I couldn't go to the races. You can't easily bring a baby to a snowmobile race when it's 20 below zero. So then you have to stay home and wait for the phone calls. The kid's been brought up with his father racing, so they don't. It's like a hockey player. They see their father as doing an ordinary job. They don't really see what's happening.
They don't see the danger, the constant on-track fight for position, for advantage. This time it's advantage Villeneuve. He's out-dueled Jody Scheckter to take 2nd place. Pierre Trudeau, Montreal Mayor Jean Drapeau, and the millions of others who are drawn like moths to the intense light of the Grand Prix spectacle. What kind of pressure does their vicarious demand for excellence put on a driver like Gilles?
Well, there's always a lot of pressure at the racetrack. The people pushing on us, cheering and urging me to win. But somehow, I've always been good at handling that and feeling cool on it. And anyway, it doesn't really matter, because I'm going all out anyway. And whatever they do, I just cannot go any faster. And even if there will be no people at the racetrack, I would go the same speed.
Sometimes it isn't how fast you can go that wins or loses a race. Sometimes it's luck, fortune, a gift of the gods, or simply a machine that fails. Comfortably in the lead, Jarier is forced to pit, and Gilles Villeneuve, native son and this day the repository of our national dreams, assumes the lead in his country's Grand Prix. Jarier's dreams of his first Grand Prix win are destroyed by a dime-sized hole in an oil line. No oil, no pressure, no engine, no race, no victory, no glory. Now Gilles and the crowd can smell victory. Gilles is driving smoothly, and if his machine stays together, he'll win. As the laps wind down, the crowd winds up, yelling itself hoarse each time their man comes into view. Behind Gilles, the battle goes on. Jody Scheckter in the number 20 Wolf, a Canadian car, drives carefully to maintain 2nd. For the '79 season, Scheckter has moved to Ferrari as Gilles' new teammate. He has replaced this man, Carlos Reutemann, who today has managed 3rd despite tire problems. Lap after lap, each driver fights to improve his position. But the crowd sees only Gilles. And as he rounds the final corner, 80,000 voices unite in a triumphal roar that drowns the scream of Gilles' 500 horsepower machine. Victory! The victory lap. Now there is time for emotion. He's done it. Achieved his first ever Grand Prix win. Won his country's race. Won for the moment the hearts of the millions of people the world over who live their dreams through men like him.
Mesdames, Messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, Gilles
They clamor to be near him in Winner's Row, where tears and beer mingle as this gifted young man from a small French-Canadian town bathes in the adulation of a country. He has done what no Canadian has ever done before.
No matter what will happen to me, I am still the same guy from Berthierville, and nothing will change that.
This is a time to savor, a time of joy. For Cécile and Georgette Villeneuve, this moment is the concrete realization of their faith in their son. For Joanne Villeneuve, this is a heady moment when fears and doubts can be locked away behind a shimmering wall of happiness. For Gilles, the dangerous journey has temporarily ended. The constant battle for a time held still. The many foes of mind, of man, of machine, for this instant, defeated. This is a moment Gilles has worked for, wished for, since the day he first strapped himself into a racing machine.
After winning one race, I want to win many more. Eventually, a driving championship, and then 2 championships. So I have dreams, and if I have dreams, why not big dreams?
He is among the best in the world. He is without a doubt the best Canadian-born racing driver ever. He is a Grand Prix driver. He is the man who would be world champion. He is Gilles Villeneuve.
A legendary racer and a legendary family. He was taken from us way too soon. Great that a Canadian production team followed him in his years after Atlantic into Formula One. I'm Todd Lewis. Thanks for watching From the Vault, presented by the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame.
From the Vault is brought to you by M-Zone, premium auto care proudly owned and made by Canadians. By Recap Recovery Drink. By WeatherTech. For the perfect fit and ultimate in-vehicle protection, nothing protects like WeatherTech. Order online at weathertech.ca. And by the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. Visit our website for Hall merchandise.